Hello, friends, and welcome to Jewels of Truth. My name is Daniel Fontenot, and today we will continue to study the book of Daniel, chapter 6. This, of course, is the well-known story of Daniel and the lion's den. But, dear friends, these stories are more than just little bedtime stories. They not only tell us of Daniel's experience and tell us of Daniel's good example in standing for the truth though the heavens fall, but they tell us of events. They forecast events at the end of the world during the time of the enforcement of the mark of the beast, or, as we say, the Sunday law crisis. All right, so let's begin. We've already done one or two presentations on the book of Daniel. We haven't covered it all yet. So we are in verses 11 and 13 of Daniel chapter 6. And it says, "Then these men assembled and found Daniel praying and making supplication before his God. Then they came near and spake before the king concerning the king's decree. Hast thou not signed a decree that every man that shall ask a petition of any god or man within 30 days, save of thee, O king, shall be cast into the den of lions? The king answered and said, The thing is true, according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which altereth not. Then answered they and said before the king, That Daniel, which is of the children of the captivity of Judah, regardeth not thee, O king, nor the decree that thou hast signed, but maketh his petition 3 times a day." So here these men assembled, and we will find in the next study that they assembled 3 times. And they assembled, and there was a conspiracy. They were going to get Daniel in trouble because of his religion and try to destroy him. But as the title of this study says, God will interfere with Satan's plans. So, as I have tried to prove in past studies, this story in Daniel chapter 6 prefigures or represents the Sunday law crisis. It symbolizes the Sunday law crisis, the time of the enforcement of the mark of the beast. And one of the reasons that God gives us these messages, these stories that we see in the Bible, is to help us to see that we need to make our decision now, not wait until the crisis comes upon us. We need to make the decision now that when that time comes, we shall say to the world, to the government, to the religious authorities, that no, we will not take your mark. We will not keep Sunday holy, because Sunday is not the Sabbath of the Lord our God. So, in the book Early Writings, page 67, it states, "As I saw what we must be in order to inherit glory, and then saw how much Jesus had suffered to obtain for us so rich an inheritance, I prayed that we might be baptized into Christ's sufferings, that we might not shrink at trials, but bear them with patience and joy, knowing what Jesus had suffered, that we, through his poverty and sufferings, might be made rich. Said the angel, Deny self, ye must step fast. Some of us have had time to get the truth and to advance step by step, and every step we have taken has given us strength to take the next. But now time is almost finished, and what we have been years learning, they will have to learn in a few months. they will also have much to unlearn and much to learn again. Those who would not receive the mark of the beast and his image, when the decree, notice the decree, like the decree that King Darius signed in Daniel chapter 6, when the decree goes forth, must have decision now to say nay or no, we will not regard the institution of the beast. Those who would not receive the mark of the beast and his image when the decree goes forth must have decision now to say, no, we will not regard the institution of the beast. And that's from Early Writings, page 67. Do we have that experience now? Have we decided, no, when that time comes, we will not regard the institution of the beast? What is the institution of the beast? Well, we read here from Review and Herald, May 27th, 1862, I saw that God would in a wonderful manner preserve his people through the time of trouble, like God preserved Daniel in the lion's den, or the three Hebrews in the fiery furnace. As Jesus poured out his soul in agony in the garden, they will earnestly cry and agonize with him day and night for deliverance. The decree will go forth that they must disregard the Sabbath of the fourth commandment. Notice, disregard the Sabbath of the fourth commandment. That's the opposite of regard. And honor the first day or lose their lives. But they will not yield and trample under their feet the Sabbath of the Lord and honor an institution of the papacy. Satan's host and wicked men will surround them and exult over them, because there will seem to be no way of escape for them. And do you think that it seemed like there was no escape for Daniel or the three Hebrews? But in the midst of their revelry and triumph, there is peal upon peal of the loudest thunder. The heavens have gathered blackness and are only illuminated by the blazing light in terrible glory from heaven, as God utters his voice from his holy habitation. Review and Herald, May 27, 1862. The Great Controversy, page 578, tells us what that institution is. The prophecy of Revelation 13 declares that the power represented by the beast with lamb-like horns shall cause the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the papacy, there symbolized by the beast, like unto a leopard. The beast with two horns is also to say to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, and furthermore it is to command all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive the mark of the beast. It has been shown that the United States is the power represented by the beast with lamb-like horns, and that this prophecy will be fulfilled when the United States shall enforce Sunday observance, which Rome claims as the special acknowledgement of her supremacy. But in this homage to the papacy, the United States will not be alone. The influence of Rome in the countries that once acknowledged her dominion is still far from being destroyed, and prophecy foretells a restoration of her power. I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Revelation 13, verse 3. The infliction of the deadly wound points to the downfall of the papacy in 1798. After this, says the prophet, his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Paul states plainly that the man of sin will continue until the second advent, 2 Thessalonians 2, 3 through 8. To the very close of time, he will carry forward the work of deception. And the Revelator declares, also referring to the papacy, all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life. Revelation 13:8. In both the Old and the New World, that means Europe and America, the papacy will receive homage in honor paid to the Sunday institution that rests solely upon the authority of the Roman Church. Great Controversy, page 578. So again, Sunday is that institution that we are to have decision now. We must make our decision now to say, no, we will not regard the institution of the papacy. Another one. Manuscript Releases, Volume 14, page 91. All who will exalt and worship the idol Sabbath, a day that God has not blessed, help the devil and his angels with all the power of their God-given ability, which they have perverted to a wrong use. Inspired by another spirit which blinds their discernment, they cannot see that the exaltation of Sunday observance is entirely the institution of the Catholic Church. A corrupt union has been formed to tear down God's memorial of creation, the seventh day, which he hallowed and blessed and gave to man to be a sign between God and his people, to be observed throughout their generations forever. A period is coming when everyone will take sides between the Sabbath of the fourth commandment, which the Lord has sanctified and blessed, and the spurious Sabbath instituted by the man of sin. An idol Sabbath has been set up, as the golden image was set up in the plains of Dura, there in Daniel chapter 3. And as Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, issued a decree, and as Darius in Daniel chapter 6 issued a decree, that all who would not bow down and worship this image should be killed, so a proclamation will be made that all who will not reverence the Sunday institution will be punished and imprisoned with death, will be punished with imprisonment and death. Thus the Sabbath of the Lord is trampled underfoot. But the Lord has declared, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and write grievousness which they have prescribed. This is God speaking to the people at the end of the world, during the Sunday law crisis. Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees, and write grievousness which they have prescribed. This is especially speaking to the lawmakers in the government. So the accusation made against Daniel by the governors, princes, counselors, and captains is similar to the accusation made by Haman against the Jews in the book of Esther. Esther chapter 3, verses 8 and 9. And Haman, who was the accuser of God's people, just like those presidents, counselors, princes, captains, etc., in Daniel chapter 6 and in Daniel chapter 3, came to accuse God's people. And Haman said unto King Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered abroad and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of thy kingdom, and their laws are diverse from all people, neither keep they the king's laws. Therefore it is not for the king's profit to suffer them. So this man Haman represents the wicked at the end of the world who accuse God's people before the governments of the world. If it please the king, let it be written that they may be destroyed. And I will pay 10,000 talents of silver to the hands of those that have the charge of the business to bring it into the king's treasuries. Kind of springboarding from this phrase that their laws are diverse from all people, neither keep they the king's laws. In Manuscript Releases, Volume 17, page 81, it states, "We must not be afraid of being singular. Do not court singularity for the sake of being odd, but for the sake of avoiding sin and dishonor to God. And in this case, we are not to mind even the multitude who are against us. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil." Exodus 23, verse 2. Because the law of God is made void in our world, does it make it a virtue to transgress that law? It may appear to the world a very small matter for the Christian to be in harmony with the world by just the act of keeping Sunday for the Sabbath in the place of the seventh day. But God's Word says the seventh day is my holy day. The man of sin says, I make the Sabbath for you, and you must keep the first day of the week. This is why, brothers and sisters, we need to have the courage to make the decision now. We will not regard the institution of the beast, the Roman Catholic Church. And that was taken from Manuscript Releases, Volume 17, page 81. Another one here from Ellen G. White, 1888 Materials, page 1679. Again, springboarding from this phrase in Esther 3, verses 8 and 9, their laws are diverse from all people. And I guarantee you, dear people, there are people in this world, many people that regard Seventh-day Adventists this way. Their laws, their doctrines, their practices, they're diverse from all people. Neither keep they the king's laws. They'll say they're weird, or they're fanatics, or they're occult. In Ellen G. White, 1888 Materials, page 1679, it says, "A great work is in danger of being misshaped and deformed by human plans. It is in danger of being marred by men who do not lay their foundation upon the eternal rock. They may regard some things as all right and other things as all wrong, just as they may be influenced in regard to the work. Their defective spiritual eyesight leads them to adopt a course of action that leaves God almost entirely out of the plans. They catch at ideas advanced by men who have not carried the burden of the work from the formation of the church called Seventh-day Adventists. This people, Seventh-day Adventists, take the Word of God just as it reads and keep the original Sabbath of the fourth commandment. They are distinguished from all others because they have obeyed the light given by the Lord in regard to the day to be observed as the Sabbath. So in a sense, when Haman in Esther chapter 3 said that the Jews' laws are diverse from all people, neither keep they the king's laws, in a sense, in a large sense, he was absolutely correct, although he was using it in an accusative way, in an accusative manner. After creating the world in 6 days, God rested on the seventh, making that day a memorial of His creation. While the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy, He sanctified and blessed the seventh day. Seventh-day Adventists have been chosen by God as a peculiar people, separate from the world, and yet there are some Seventh-day Adventists who imply that that should not be so. There are leaders in the Adventist church that imply that that should not be so, that we should not be a peculiar people, separate from the world. the great cleaver of truth, has cut them out of the quarry of the world and brought them in connection with himself. He has made them his representatives and has given them the work of exalting his downtrodden law. And yes, that makes them peculiar, separate from the world. Not bigoted or self-righteous, but let's just face it, dear people, the human race has been living in a world of sin for about 6,000 years now. And God, in the very beginning, the very first promise given to man, to humankind, God's promise, there in Genesis 3:15, states, "And I will put enmity between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel." There you have it right there. God said there's going to be a separation within the human race between those who are the seed of the woman and the seed of the devil. The children of the woman and the children of the devil. The children of the church, that is, God's true church, and the children of this world. The Great Controversy, page 615. As the Sabbath has become the special point of controversy throughout Christendom, and religious and secular authorities have combined, this is speaking of the future, during the Sunday law crisis, okay, when religious and secular authorities have combined to enforce the observance of the Sunday, the persistent refusal of a small minority to yield to the popular demand will make them objects of universal execration. And in other words, universal hatred and cursing. It will be urged that the few who stand in opposition to an institution of the church and a law of the state ought not to be tolerated, that it is better for them to suffer than for whole nations to be thrown into confusion and lawlessness. The same argument many centuries ago was brought against Christ by the rulers of the people. "It is expedient for us," said the wily Caiaphas, "that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not." John 11, verse 50. This is what Caiaphas said as an excuse, as a reason to get rid of Jesus. He said, it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. This argument will appear conclusive, and a decree, like the decree in Daniel chapter 3 and Daniel chapter 6, a decree will finally be issued against those who hallow the Sabbath of the fourth commandment, denouncing them as deserving of the severest punishment and giving the people liberty after a certain time to put them to death. Romanism in the old world and apostate Protestantism in the new will pursue a similar course toward those who honor all the divine precepts. Now, the Lord will interpose himself during this crisis. In Review and Herald, June 15th, 1897, we are told, "From time to time the Lord has made known his manner of working. He is mindful of what is passing upon the earth, and when a crisis has come, he has revealed himself and has interposed to hinder the working of Satan's plans." This is what God does. He is watching everything that's going on the earth. And when the crisis has come in the past, he has revealed himself and interposed to hinder the working of Satan's plans. And this is what he is going to do at the end of the world. Things are getting really serious in the world now. And God is going to allow things to come to a crisis, and then He will reveal Himself and interpose to hinder the working of Satan's plans. He has often permitted matters with nations, with families, and with individuals to come to a crisis, that His interference might become marked. Then He has let the fact be known that there was a God in Israel who would sustain and vindicate His people. This is what God did at when ancient Israel crossed the Red Sea. He allowed things to come to a crisis, to where the people of God thought, there's no way of escape. They're going to slaughter us. The Egyptian army is going to slaughter us. We have a mountain on one side, and on the other side we have the Red Sea. But then God's intervention becomes more marked. When the defiance of the law of Jehovah shall be almost universal, when His people shall be pressed in affliction by their fellow men, God will interpose. The fervent prayers of His people will be answered, for He loves to have His people seek Him with all their heart and depend upon Him as their deliverer. He will be sought unto to do these things for His people, and He will arise as the protector and avenger of His people. The promise is, shall not God avenge His own elect, which cry day and night unto Him? I tell you that He will avenge them speedily. Review and Herald, June 15th, 1897. And then our last statement, General Conference Daily Bulletin, April 13th, 1891, tells us, with His eye upon the church, the Lord has again and again allowed matters to come to a crisis, that in their extremity His people should look alone for His help. Their prayers, their faith, together with their steadfast purpose to be true, have called for the interference of God, and then He has fulfilled His promise. Then shalt thou call, and the Lord shall answer. Thou shalt cry, and He shall say, Here I am. His mighty arm has been stretched out for the deliverance of His people. God reserves His gracious interposition in their behalf till the time of their extremity. Thus He makes their deliverance more marked and their victories more glorious. When all human wisdom fails, the Lord's interference will be more clearly recognized, and He will receive the glory that is His due. Even the enemies of our faith, persecutors, will perceive that God is working for His people and turning their captivity. And if you remember, stopping and pausing here in the middle of this passage, there is a place, I could probably find it pretty quick, there in Exodus, where when Pharaoh was about to pounce upon the children of Israel before they crossed, or as they were crossing the Red Sea, I guess you would say it, even Pharaoh admitted that God was working for them. Here it is there in Exodus chapter 14 and verse 25. I'll begin a little bit sooner than that, maybe verse 22. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued and went in after them to the midst of the sea, even all Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And it came to pass that in the morning watch the Lord looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians, and took off their chariot wheels, so that they drave them heavily, so that the Egyptians said, and this is the point here, the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians." Okay? And as Sister White says, even the enemies of our faith, persecutors, will perceive that God is working for His people in turning their captivity. And He was definitely turning Israel's captivity right there in the Red Sea. What is needed in this, our time of danger, is fervent prayer, mingled with earnest faith, a reliance upon God when Satan casts his shadow over God's people. Let everyone bear in mind that God delights to listen to the supplications of His people, for the prevailing iniquity calls for more earnest prayer, and God has promised that He will avenge His own elect who cry day and night unto Him, though He bear long with them. Men are prone to abuse the long-suffering of God and to presume on His forbearance. But there is a point in human iniquity when it is time for God to interfere, and terrible are the issues. The Lord is slow to anger and great in power, and will not at all acquit the wicked. The long-suffering of God is wonderful, because He puts constraint on His own attributes. That Sister White states that in various ways and in various different places. And that statement always amazes me, that God puts constraint on His own attributes. But punishment is nonetheless certain. Every century of profligacy has treasured up wrath against the day of wrath. And when the time comes and the iniquity is full, or as we say, as the Bible says, when the cup is full, the cup of iniquity is full, then God will do His strange work. It will be found a terrible thing to have worn out the divine patience, for the wrath of God will fall so signally and strongly that it is represented as being unmixed with mercy. The very earth will be desolated. It is at the time of the national apostasy, when, acting on the policy of Satan, the rulers of the land will rank themselves on the side of the man of sin. It is then the measure of guilt is full. The national apostasy is the signal for national ruin. General Conference Bulletin, Daily Bulletin, April 13th, 1891. And you see the same thing in the book of Daniel, chapter 6, the story of Daniel in the lion's den. Because those men who accused Daniel, they had filled up the measure of their iniquity. They had filled up the measure of their guilt. And their end was that they got thrown into the lion's den and got chewed up. Daniel was delivered out of the lion's den. So, that brings us to the end of this study. God will interfere with Satan's plans. If you appreciate this type of content, then by all means tap that like button so that this video can be sent far and wide to those who are hungering for the bread of life. And if you have any questions or comments, you can place them at the bottom of this video, and I will definitely read them. And if you haven't subscribed, then we would highly encourage you to do so. Thank you for joining us here at Jewels of Truth. We hope that you will have a good day in the Lord.